Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that the future of the Star Wars universe seems to be quite expansive, not just with their new books, novels, comics, and video games, but also, let's not forget about the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars movies currently in the works, as well as a handful of other Star Wars lore that's going to be made canon by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way guys, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support. It is greatly appreciated. Now, one thing about the Star Wars universe right now is that given that Kathleen Kennedy is still having a lot of trouble with the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, there are a handful of other projects that Disney is more concerned about. They're focusing now primarily on Jon and Dave succeeding, and that's a good news, because given that Jon and Dave, they recently got all these big-time promotions over at Lucasfilm that essentially gives them a lot more creative power, a lot of creative control over the series and over Lucasfilm in general. We're basically going to have a different tone with all of the upcoming Star Wars shows, without a doubt. Now, where we stand right now is a very interesting phase, because we have had a lot of issues with the Boba Fett series, with the Kenobi series, and the fan criticism, and how Joby Harold openly admitted that he never really watched the prequels from start to finish. And that really, it really told us a lot of things about what kind of creators have been involved with some of these shows. Now, with all that being said, there's a lot of things happening right now as we speak behind the scenes, and exactly what's been going on with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy and others around Lucasfilm as a whole. However, alright, with Kathleen Kennedy still having trouble with the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, Disney has been focusing more on what Favreau and Filoni have been to offer for the Star Wars fandom. Now, it's described that recently, however, in an interview that Kathleen Kennedy took part in, she went on to admit the truth about something that the fans were very critical over. Kathleen went on to state the following. Now, when we were making the Kenobi series, we knew we had a deadline that we had to reach, and it did in fact cause us to squeeze production in and rush the making of this series. Looking back now, I can see and admit that this was our biggest flaw and mistake by trying to reach a May 2022 deadline, and also keeping the series as only a 6-parter when we should have expanded it. The reason we rushed this production was due to how this project was in limbo for many years, that we just wanted to get it off the ground and bring it to people's homes. And I guess what the right thing would have been to do with that was to set a new release date for the series, and focus on more episodes that should have been made with a higher budget. Now let me just pause here. What Kathleen Kennedy is openly admitting here is exactly what has been talked about for the past couple of months about the Kenobi series. With the Kenobi series, it was very, much a speedy production. They went right through it in 2 months and change, almost 3 months. That's all they really spent on filming, the main parts. And a lot of that had to do with because most of the series was done in studio rather than on-location shooting. Now sure, they had some on-location shots like Joshua Tree and some other areas, but apart from all of that, Kathleen Kennedy openly saying that the main reason why this show had a lower budget than originally intended, as well as why it's only a 6-parter, is because they did that to speed up production, to get this out by May of 2022, and to make sure that they could reach that May 2022 deadline. Now, I don't know about you guys, I would have been perfectly fine with a delay. I don't care how long it would have been, as long as the show would have been superior and cinematic-like and very focused on Kenobi and Vader, whatever have you. I think that if they just took the time to focus on the series more, and perhaps had different talent than Joby Harold and Deborah Chow, this series could have hands down been the best Star Wars show without a doubt. Now, moving to the next thing. Alright, we already know that Ewan McGregor has expressed a lot of criticism over the series. He himself even admitted that this production was quite a nightmare at times because of all the back and forth situations that were happening, creative differences, you name it. Now, the next thing that I do want to go over is, of course, what she also has to say, is that she goes on to actually state the following. Part of moving things quickly forced us to keep the budget of the series lower than we should have, and I own my mistakes and things we completely had a lack of judgment on with the series that should have been a bigger thing for fans. Ewan was executive producer, and even he was suggesting that we make the series longer and or rise the budget of the series, but I didn't really feel it was necessary at the time, as that was only going to delay the series by a whole 6 months, maybe even more, and we knew fans would be very upset over that. So, the next thing, before I get to the next thing, I just want to say this, is that what also Kathleen Kennedy is saying here is that she believes that making a 6-month delay would have literally broke the series. I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that if they spent the time to go throughout, let's say, June, July, August, September, October, and November, and get this thing out by December of 2022, this year, I think it would have been better. I think it would have been a better release date. And I also believe, 100%, that if it were more episodes, had a higher budget, had a better vision or creativity, it would have outperformed the way that it actually performed on Disney Plus from May to like July something. So obviously, there's been a lot of things happening behind the scenes between Kathleen Kennedy and the Acolyte and Skeleton Crew, and she's still having trouble with those two shows. And a lot of fans always like to reach out to me and say that they don't believe that the Acolyte is going to ever see the light of day. Now, I do disagree with that, because the Acolyte is currently filming, and I don't see them not releasing it, but I do see them further delaying the show. It's already been delayed once for 2024, and it's looking even likely now that it could very well be delayed again, because there are some rewrites that are still being worked on. Filming is going to have some kind of delay midway through, and it really is kind of a mess of a situation. So it almost comes off like anything that Kathleen Kennedy touches that's, where to the point of hiring creators that really don't know what they're doing, those projects seem to fall apart. And I think at the end of the day, it's great that we have John and Dave on board, how they got promotions over at Lucasfilm, all thanks to Bob Chapek, the Disney CEO. I gotta give him credit at least for that. I don't agree with him on everything. In fact, I don't agree with him on some of the regular Disney movies or the Disney parks and how that's being handled, but I do agree with the fact of how he's allowing John and Dave to really handle Star Wars and to really propel things into a better future. And I think that's where things are really beginning to shape up. So overall, Kathleen Kennedy admitting the truth here, admitting her mistakes, admitting what she did wrong. I don't really, believe that she's doing this to kind of be very generous to the fans or very considerate. I think that this is more or less of her saving her image or appearing more genuine to the fan base. That's what I think. So I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I am on Twitter at Mike01 if you guys want to go ahead and check me out there. And I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.